Welcome to For the Record, an unfiltered view on current trends and timeless advice for surviving in the aesthetics industry. Whether you're an injector, practice owner, sales rep, or marketer, it's time to set the record straight. Each week we cut through the chaos and showcase diverse perspectives and winning ideas from the best minds in the industry. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Hall, Chief Growth Officer at Aesthetic Record. Now, let's get started on this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of For the Record. And today we have with us a go-getter, a true entrepreneur, someone who is doing some really cool things in aesthetics right now. We have with us Roni Bolton, who is a doctor of nursing practice from Rush University, also a dermatology certified nurse practitioner. She's also really an expert in all things laser. She is the CEO of PSRX Body and Skin in Chicago. She's also the CEO of Precise Aesthetics, which is a laser training company. And she's a CMO of Cervello Laser. So she has really got her hand in everything around all things aesthetics. She's also an expert, obviously, in skin of color, lasers, all the Fitzpatrick scales, and how we can do things in the summer. I just was watching her Instagram about getting all your lasers in the summer. And she's going to give us some ideas today about how to bring lasers into your practice. I love laser hair removal. I think it's a huge opportunity for practices. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit today as well, but also just her journey as an entrepreneur to now being part of 3 companies and doing a lot of really interesting things and innovation in the industry. So Roni, I'm thrilled to welcome you to our show. Come aboard For the Record. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, for sure.
Well, your bio is like reading a book. I was like, good Lord, you got more going on than I do. But I think
hearing it back, I was like, oh, wow, I do all those things.
And I didn't mention she also has a skincare line too. But I think you've got a really cool, your story is really cool because you took what you love, which is dermatology and aesthetics, mix it together to make a really cool practice that's doing a lot of really innovative things, but also said, wait, there's more. And then went on to work with a laser company to do training. So I think you had a really nice natural progression of innovation. But I think now you're like a tech founder in a sense. You know, you're doing like tech stuff, but you're also doing skincare stuff. So give us an idea of your journey as of today. Like where are you in your continuum of things today in your entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. It has been such an amazing journey. Aesthetics is one of those fields where it can really take you anywhere you desire and beyond what you can even imagine. So I started my career in plastic surgery and dermatology, decided to step out on my own and open my own practice. And so took years just focusing on building that practice, trying to figure out our point of difference. And in that time frame, really became a leader in laser dermatology. It's kind of where I live and learning the physics of that, and being able to do different treatments on all different skin types. And I had to make a few mistakes to make that happen. Of course you do, right? Like mistakes make us great. And then it was able to, pivot that into now being the CMO of Cervello. Precise Aesthetics is my tech company where we develop laser technology for all skin types and different innovations that are going on in the field. And then, having Precise MD Skin Health is our primary skin line that we offer here at PSRX Body and Skin. So it has been a lot of things. And hearing it back, I'm like, damn, I'm kind of busy, but...
And not to mention you're a doctor of nursing practice, so you did your DNP. You have an additional certification as a dermatology certified NP, which I think I've not really seen that. That's not really common. So
yeah,
very specific focus. I love that.
Absolutely. So just kind of making sure that I have those accolades behind my name. I'm not a dermatologist, right? So stepping into my own practice as a nurse practitioner who practices dermatology, just having to make that distinction. So I made sure that I was able to kind of look at everything from a full perspective and have those certifications behind my name.
Yeah, I think you have to do that, especially in dermatology, because as we all know, our dermatologist friends are very proud of dermatology, which we love that for them. But I think anyone who goes into that world has to have a pedigree of sorts to compete. But I love a few things that I've read about you in your bio. And you just mentioned even now, talking about your positioning as a practice and what you're really good at. And I think people forget that we do this because we love it, right? Our careers are about loving something and being passionate about it. And oftentimes what you end up doing does not really align to what brought you here, what you really found as your conviction. But you've done both. So when you thought about your practice, I want to go into all the lasers and things in a minute, but when you thought about your practice and building who you are and the PSRX brand, how did you really nail down like your identity and what would be your really competitive advantage or your sort of go-to-market mantra for your practice?
I'll be honest with you, that wasn't easy. And it was something that happened, I won't say by mistake, but almost accidentally, right? So I came into a practice making a lot of mistakes that I see a lot of new med spa owners making, right? So they come into a practice, they offer all these solutions, which are great, but nobody's really focusing on anything that they're really great at. And so when I started my practice, what I realized that I was really great at are these outcomes and these clinical outcomes on darker skin types using these devices that are in the world of darker skin tones, Black and brown people. It was like, you're not supposed to use that. But I'm like, but I can make it great on you. So it was kind of me trying to figure out my niche. And then all of my colleagues were sending me all of their patients, right? Like Roni's the laser queen, go to her for pigment, go to her for tattoo, go to her for resurfacing. And so without them knowing it, they put me kind of like in a corner. But that corner ended up being my space. That ended up being my land, and where I was able to kind of really figure out who I was and really how I was going to make an impact on this industry. So I would say by accident, but also by just making mistakes and kind of figuring out what I was really good at is how it all came to be.
Well, and it's such a unique area. I say unique because people don't often think about, I think tattoo removal is a big thing right now. I mean, Pete, what's his name? Kim Kardashian's ex-boyfriend has made it really popular again. I mean, he did it.
I've been doing it for years, and now all of a sudden Pete Davidson made it popular.
Well, Pete made a lot of things famous, but he spent $200,000 I think to get all of his tattoos removed. But he was like, I'm done with it. I'm over it. But I was looking at your Instagram last night, and you have a charitable organization that helps with inmates who have been released from prison to get tattoos removed and different things in that whole area. And I think it's a really cool way to also bring your passion into like doing good for the community, because that's a huge thing. And I think tattoo removal, if you did nothing else all day long, that is a full-time gig right now, because everyone, the spring break 99 tramp stamp, everyone said, I never did it. I was too scared to have a permanent thing, but people want that gone. I think that's a huge market, but it's really, I think, challenging to market. Who is your customer type? How do you find them? Because you want them to also do aesthetic services also. So how do you position that? Like the tattoo removal part is a big part of what you do as sort of the aesthetic umbrella of all the things that you offer.
Absolutely. So I've always felt like me specializing in tattoo removal, it's really a cool thing to market, right? You don't see it very often. Not a whole lot of practices offer it, and definitely not a whole lot of practices offer it well. And so positioning that, making those videos, doing that social media is really what made that push. In aesthetics, I think sometimes we forget the realness of skin. And I say that in saying, we think of Botox and fillers and looking young and our wrinkles, but skin is one of the most, how can I say, like it's a blockage, right? If a person's skin isn't right, if they have acne, if they have pigmentation, it hinders them from everything in their daily life. And so in doing tattoo removal, what I would come across a lot are people reaching out to me saying, hey, I just got out of jail. I have a tattoo on my face. I can't get a job, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, these people need me. That's what it felt like, and I was like, I have to create a space for them to be treated like they're human. And that happens a lot too, when they have these, tattoos on their face and they're just not being treated right in our day society. You would think in 2025 we'd be over this by now, but we're not. It's still a thing. It's still a faux pas. And so I had to create my non-for-profit to be able to give back to that. And it has opened up a lot of different doors. I sit on a lot of boards with reentry, with mental health. And so it has been a journey, and being able to like take what you do where you make money and also be able to give back to the community to make it a better place here in Chicago and North Carolina has been really fascinating for me.
I think too, you need it for grounding. I think when you get into aesthetics, everyone is like, I don't want to say hoity-toity, but very hoity-toity. You have a higher income person coming into your practice. Everything is, very sexy and luxurious. And I think at some point you disconnect from reality, that's not the real world. Like people aren't like all of us, it's not the normal way of life. So I think if nothing else, to be able to have a practice that's like still grounded in reality, because I think people come into your practice who may look like that have a ton of money, and they've had an unfortunate thing in their life, and they've done something, crazy, like, again, spring break tattoos, whatever it is, and they end up with you, and they want to feel welcome and that they're part of your family. And I think we oftentimes ostracize people who don't look like us in practices because we want to maintain some kind of an image, and I get that. I get the whole idea of your image and your brand, but I do think that there's like a grounding part of it that is really unique to what you're doing that makes it feel like it's a real human behind the scenes. Like you're a real human in a real human practice, and it just gives it some personality that I think you can't get otherwise. So I love a good charitable organization. I love doing things for the community. I think it's awesome. And I'm sure that like you said, you've got a lot of cool opportunities out of it, sitting on boards, doing things in the community. And I'm sure it helps your business in general just to be thought of as a person who is doing good things for the world. And the karma doesn't hurt, I bet. So,
it does. So we take a portion of, so that person who had the bad spring break experience or the bad or the dare and had a tattoo removed, we donate a portion of all of our completed tattoos back into our charity. And so when people feel like they're doing a good service too, it just makes that full circle in my practice. And it says a lot about the energy that goes along in here too.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's a really cool way to think about like giving something back, because I think it's never sexy, right? You go get your lips done, you're like, oh, I get my lips done, you're so excited, or you get a BBL, but it's like I'm getting my tattoo removed. It doesn't feel
it's not sexy.
It's not sexy, but I think now it's like I don't feel that, but I feel like I'm doing something good for my community because I am giving back in some ways. I do think there's a part of it that we want to feel good at a med spa or at a medical aesthetic clinic. We want to feel great and we want to feel like our best selves. And that probably isn't the procedure to give you that. But now there is a part of it that can make you feel really good. So I think I just love I love what you've done there. I think it's just a really interesting way to give back, but also a thing that no one else is doing. Like people just don't do tattoo removal. And I just think it's it's like laser hair. It's a low hanging fruit in the sense that everyone's going to need it at some point. Like people need it all the time, but they don't want to step out and do it. But laser hair is a big thing for you as well. And you've got lots of content around that out there. So for all of our naysayers out there who are like, laser hair, what is this, 1995? Give us some thoughts on why we have got to have this in our practice.
Absolutely. So when we think of laser hair, we think of, oh, I just have like some hair in my bikini. I want to get rid of it. Summertime ready. But there are so many follicular diseases that go along with laser hair removal that we forget that these people need treatment for. PCOS patients, HS patients, people with, pseudo follicular diseases need laser hair removal. It's not just a cosmetic procedure. It's a dermatological procedure that people really need the help with. And having the correct technology in your practice is super huge, right? So we have lasers that have been used in, way back in the day. We used to use IPL for laser hair removal. I still see that happening. Shame. And so having the correct technology. And then with people of darker skin tones, we always get told, yag. And it's not necessarily the most powerful option to actually be able to see a result. So with the company that I am CMO of, we use a triple wavelength. So we're actually using a YAG, an alexandrite, and a diode all on one platform. And with that, you get more energy to be able to treat those darker skin tones, but not just treat them, actually give them a clinical result, because that's the biggest problem that it has. Not necessarily not burning them. That's one thing, right? Don't burn me, but can I also get a result of what I came in to actually get done? So I really enjoy working for a company that looks for safety, but also the efficacy of a treatment.
And I think it's a recurring annuity because you got to come back and get it done again. Like I've had it done on my underarms. I have to still go back every so often and get, another treatment or two. I actually have a package right now that I need to go finish up. Like just people who are busy, like legs, bikini, like all these things when you're older, even like, the chin, the beard, the whatever you got to have done. But they keep coming back for it because you got to, I think your body, I don't know if it recycles or something, but at some point it starts to grow again later on. You got to, get
so you have those hormonal growths and you really can't, decide when you're hormonal, it's going to act up and make that hair kind of flicker again. You also get false dormants with the hair follicle. So when you get those false dormants, it can lie dormant for years and then all of a sudden decide to stay alive, to get alive. And so, all those maintenance treatments are definitely necessary with laser hair removal. I think, a big misnomer when we first started doing laser hair removal is that we would give false expectations. We would tell the patient, oh, it's going to be gone 100% and all these things. And really, when we're looking for laser hair reduction, we're looking for about a 90% reduction in hair growth, right? Not a whole 100% of it gone. If that happens, great. But most of the time, for most people, that isn't the case. And so giving those realistic expectations with laser is super important in our industry as well.
Yeah, I just want to go longer between shaving my legs. I just want it to be like extended. It doesn't have to be gone. Just make it last a little bit longer before I have to go do it. And I think that there's part of it where, for females that are busy, like that's why I think it's such a huge market, because everyone who's busy, who has money to spend at a med spa, is in the same boat I'm in, right? Where they're trying to figure out how to make their days longer when there's only 24 hours in a day. I think they're so busy. And we're looking right now at regenerative medicine and holistic medicine and functional medicine and all these really sexy terms. But at the end of the day, like, I got to get my hair gone. I think it's still a basic need that all of us probably have. If we were given the option to do it, who would say no, right? Like if we could afford it and it was easy and not pain-free, but less painful, we'd all say yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. It's never pain-free. It's like the little band. But I think, not to do a Cervello here commercial, but I think that your device that represent is less painful and has some really unique things. So give us at least a bit of information about that, because I think the pain is the biggest deterrent, because it does hurt like a mother, and you don't want to go back and get that. You don't want to go back and get the other one. You're like, nope, I think I'm good.
So we have a patented technology, our dual cooling system, that keeps our tip extremely cold. You can go into standard mode for the tip to be cold, or you can do a plus max freezing of the tip to make it more comfortable. Obviously, when you're doing areas like bikini, those areas, you want it as cold as possible, as comfortable as possible. I will say that certain areas, I am always just 100%. I'm that 100 girl. I keep it real, so I'll never have to go back and think of my lie. Literally, areas like bikini, anal, in between the thigh where you have that thin skin, those areas hurt. Like, they're never going to be completely painless. You didn't feel a thing. You're going to feel something. And at the end of the day, you kind of want to feel something so that you know that the area is being heated properly to be able to kill the bulb of the hair. So you're going to feel a little pinch. That's what I say. I say everything in aesthetics pinches a little bit, just a little bit.
If it doesn't hurt, it's not working. No.
Yeah, it's not working.
My ankles were the worst for me. Like, all around my ankle area, anywhere that's like on the bone, I was like, oh my God, it's brutal. Oh, it's horrible. But I digress in saying that. But I think it's a beautifully simple idea. But to your point before, there's a lot of things that go wrong. We see a lot of burns. I work obviously across a lot of med spas. We see people who get burned, who have bad outcomes. I know that you devoted a lot of your time to training and really making sure that laser safety is in the forefront. What are the things that we should be doing if we are using this in our practice, or we want to bring on a new device or adopt LHR? How to make sure that we're not going to have some of these adverse outcomes that we see so prevalently in the media and on social media and everywhere else that we look?
And I love that you said that, because in laser world, laser technology inside of med spas, there isn't a whole lot of proper training. We get a handpiece put in our hand, we get told what the settings are by our rep, and then we go fire. And we do not have the responsibility of learning the physics behind what we are actually doing or performing treatment on that patient, right? So with Precise Medical Aesthetics, we have actually developed a 16-hour clinical didactic just to understand the parameters of how you're treating on all skin types, as well as understanding the physiology, the physics that go behind each device. So not just saying, oh, this is the brand of laser and this is how you treat, but understanding this is the type of technology, this is the type of wavelength, this is what you're using, this is that particular type of laser physics that you need to know in order to treat to get these certain outcomes. I didn't know that it would have to be a thing until I just started seeing all these patients come into my practice who had so much damage. The damage is crazy. And it's not just on darker skin types. It's on every skin type. And so I was like, there needs to be something that comes in between or comes before us having these really great devices in our practices and doing just these clinical trainings with just a rep or a clinical trainer that comes in, but they're really focused on just that device and not necessarily looking at it from a full perspective. And so I feel like that's what my company is developing, so that, I can't be everywhere. I'm not the only, so we have to make sure that every practice can be able to do tattoo removal, do laser hair removal, resurface without damaging these patients, and really hold that responsibility to heart.
Well, you don't think about it when you're in aesthetics. If you're an injectable person, I've been doing injection kind of stuff for a long time, trainings and such. So that's what I know really well, right? I know that like the back of my hand. All the arteries, all the things. Laser, I'm a freaking nymph. I'm like a noob. I don't know anything. Like, I'm a neophyte. Yeah. I don't know a darn thing about it. I have to look it up every time to know which wavelength and which. Like, I just don't know. It's not a thing that I have a lot of knowledge in. So I have to go physically look it up and make sure I know what I'm talking about each time I do it. I can imagine for an injector who's getting trained on injections all the time, and it's like, oh, by the way, here's a device. It's probably very much like I am. It's like, I don't know this technology, and they have to kind of go back and reference it. And they're, in the game we'll call it a noob, they're a noob also, right? They don't know what the heck they're doing either. And there's no one there to
Yeah.
tell them. There isn't, in a practice, there's usually like an injector who's been there for a while, who's been injecting. You can say, oh gosh, the artery, or oh gosh, palpate here. Lasers, there's probably not that person in the practice. Like, there's usually not a person who's like this extremely knowledgeable, brilliant human who's been doing it for a long time. And
Right.
so there is not a place to go. And I think in Texas we have a whole like laser institute here. We're
Yeah.
big in Texas on lasers, but I do think that there's such a miss that there's just not enough education anywhere for lasers in our entire. To your point, that's just globally available, not just about a device in general. I just had one. I had the Aviva done in Austin. Shout out to my girl at Austin Plastic Surgeon, and she was like walking me through the whole thing. And and then I have all these tracks in my stomach, and I'm itchy. I mean, and I'm used to aesthetics, right? Everything is weird. You get all kinds of
Yeah.
issues, so I didn't mind it. But if you don't know what's coming, like there's also like the 1 week after the expectation management is also really important, that you're going to have like weird itchies and flakies. And so how do you help a practitioner to go through like the pitch to the patient and the consultation and what's going to come next? I feel like there's just a lot of verbiage there they
It
got to
is.
know.
Yes, so it is huge. I feel like in my practice, we take the time out, but it's like you said, right? You're being led by somebody who's an expert. In most practices, they don't have that laser expert within the practice. So that has to be created in some realm. I go to all of our conferences, and it like gets so blipped over. And it's almost kind of fascinating to me how, I'd go to adult dermatology conferences because that's my world. And then aesthetic conferences kind of come after that. But when I go to aesthetic conferences, I'm like, okay, that just got blipped over. And then we're going to go out there, and that's going to be half of our practice. What's the word I'm looking for? Half of our practice demand is devices, right? But it's so blipped, and I don't understand. I don't understand the disconnect of why that happens. And then I go into dermatology conferences, and they do the same thing. They have like a 5-minute presentation on it, and then it just goes away. And so I just feel like what needs to happen is there has to be a space where somebody in the practice takes ownership of that portion. Somebody in your practice has to learn the back end of not just what brand they're doing, but also exactly what technology they're delivering, who they're delivering it to, and how the outcomes are going to be for that patient, including aftercare and pre-care for that patient as well. Because as you know, like with fractional lasers, our CO2s, our erbiums, our people of color, and I say that like fits 3 to 6 have to be pre-treated. And a lot of patients aren't even receiving that. And then they're wondering why they're dealing with all these clinical outcomes of like hyperpigmentation or hypopigmentation. Well, we didn't learn the damn skin in the first place. Right. So that's the hugest responsibility, is to learn skin, take those dermatology conference courses and all those things so that you can understand the parameters of skin, to be able to know, the rheology and how to change that with laser, not just with your needle. And so that's a big thing, is just knowing the responsibility.
And at a time where we're seeing injectables decrease, we're seeing devices increase. Like if you look at the Q-Sites data from this year, well, it looks at last year. I mean, it shows a pretty stark difference in that devices are increasing in their usage. And I think we have more and more, right, for more body parts. I think even with, things like weight loss, everyone has loose skin now. It's kind of making a resurgence. It hasn't had in a few years. I think it's really popular again. But I look at malpractice insurance claims. We were working here on a captive, and we're launching that at Aesthetic Records. I've been looking at malpractice nonstop for a few months. And lasers in general are the number one issue for most med spas. Like that's where they have an issue, because typically, if it's toxin, it resolves. Like a drop brow resolves. And even an occlusion is so incredibly rare, like infinitesimally rare, but we talk about it all the time. But burning someone with a laser, actually pretty frequent. Actually happens quite a bit. And no one's talking about it. Like, Roni, no one's saying this. They're saying occlusions all the time. They're talking about occlusions. Like that is like finding a needle in a freaking haystack. But burning someone's skin with a handpiece you know nothing about, much more likely to happen, much more common. But how come no one is focusing on it the way that they're focusing on all these like filler migration and bullshit things we hear about filler all the time? How come no one cares enough to talk about it?
I have said this for so long. I've been saying it for so long. And I do not know. I can't give you an answer why this is so glossed over. Part of me feels like it's a little bit of laziness, right? Like to be able to learn all of the aspects, all of the science behind laser, it takes time. And it takes a lot of effort to like know exactly how to handle a burn case and how to deal with the skin if something, doesn't go right, or if you have a contraindication for a certain, it is so much. And, there's so much that goes into aesthetics in the first place. And so when you're learning a lot, it's kind of like, damn, I got to learn more. But yes, you have to learn more. That's how it works. And so even my private trainings include, the top dermatologists. We are not taught on laser. Laser is something that has been around forever, but no one's making like that real foundation of education to learn how to not only fire, but to learn how to treat and to learn how to treat adverse reactions, right? So that's the thing that people don't want to talk about because it's a whole thing in itself. I think it needs its own conference. It needs its own layer, right? And now in 2025, I've been doing this for 15 years. I am just now getting asked to speak at conferences for laser. And I'm like, that's crazy. It took so long for us to get to this point. But I'm really happy that the world is changing and we're starting to ask those questions like, we have all these devices. Why is there no real training out there? Why are we not having these conversations with each other? So now those conversations are getting started. And it's my happy day because now I get to say all the things that I've been thinking forever to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes. So.
Well, I'm thinking about it as you're talking, like, why is this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting here racking my brain. I think, first of all, it's not as sexy. Like, no one's an Instagram famous person from doing laser. Like, it's just not. I mean, I think some of the dermatologists might be, but it doesn't play as well on Instagram, which I think is kind of the litmus test for things. So I think that's one part of it. I think it is very challenging, to your point, to know there's so much more science involved. I think filler, I can tell you about G prime, where to put it, how to do it. Like, it's not so difficult. But science of laser is like, again, I'm a pretty intelligent human. I've got a pretty high IQ, and I have to go back and look at it all the time. Like, what was that again? I think it is challenging, and I think you're right. There's two parts. It's like how to do it, and then how to fix it. And those are vastly different, both equally as involved topics that you have to learn. And at the end of the day, it's also costly to buy a device. You can go get a vial of Botox or Dysport from anybody. Like, no one cares. If you got to, right now on TikTok, they're all doing their self injections. These like housewives. Like, first of all, that's lunacy. But it doesn't. There's not a barrier to entry for filler, right? For toxin either. You get a medical director, you're good to go. But a device to go spend $100,000 into capital equipment, it's a bit of a different thing. It's not so open to the public. But I do think what I would love to hear about, Roni, this is what makes me crazy. People who will buy a device and have never been trained on anything. They know nothing about laser at all, and they get a device in their practice. And they're like, oh, I shouldn't have bought that one. I didn't know better. I'm like, why didn't you not go learn about the thing you were going to buy before you bought the freaking thing? So
it drives me crazy.
Where do we go to just get, if we were to just get like general basic laser training, if you're going to go buy a device and you're like, I don't know between a YAG and I don't know what I'm doing. Where do we go to just get the really core knowledge so that we can even make an informed decision about what we should be buying and putting it into our practice?
Absolutely. So this is something that is kind of scattered. It's kind of information that you kind of have to dig up and find a resource and all of these things. But there are laser courses. I am so having a brain fart with the website of the lasercertification.org website, and that is not right. I will totally find that information for you later. But there are courses out there that just strictly teach on laser didactic. Precise Medical Aesthetics is developing one as well. Right now we're at 16 hours. So if that gives you a little bit of kind of like the investment that you have to make into just learning the physics behind it. And then now we're getting into the portion of where we're learning, how to fix certain things, how to treat patients with gray hair for laser hair removal, how to, if you have an adverse reaction when it comes to like a fractional laser, how do you treat that? What wavelengths within CO2 and erbium can actually be used on which skin tones, and how to pre-treat and post-treat. So it's a lot that goes into it. And I'm trying to figure that out for us too. It's been a challenge to try to figure that out, which is why I kind of was doing a whole lot of laser courses and then kind of put a halt onto it, because I was like, wait, there's something else missing before we even get to the point where we have it in our hand. We need that challenging part of studying before, the same way that we have all went and got our degrees and learned, how to assess a patient, how to have that clinical background, all those things, bedside, all those things don't go into aesthetic medicine as much. So now we're having to be in a space where we create it.
Yeah, and if the first time you've ever thought about a laser is when the guy walks in your practice with it in his hand, like, you want to buy this? Take a step back. I mean, I think that's actually very common. I worked in a small town, or I worked in Arkansas as a sales rep for Galderma, and it was such a common occurrence. Like, they would walk in for the first time to meet a guy, or a sales rep for a device company, and they know nothing about devices, and they buy it because they promise a great ROI. They promise it's a perfect, client. You'll pay us back in 6 months. Yeah, if you did nothing but that, you might. But it was like the first toe in the water was like, I'm going to buy this thing, and they didn't know anything about it. Like, it's a business discussion for me. Like, I want to know what I'm buying. Like, be an informed consumer.
Yeah.
I think if nothing else, and also then you can decide, is it the right market for you? Is it the right patient type? If you're in Florida, some things just aren't going to work for you because you're in the freaking sun all day. Like, it's just not going to be the right device for your practice. Or if you're in a place where everyone's, Snow White, like, it's a different indication. Who knows? But you got to learn that on your own. And I think that we're missing some part of that where it's like, it's just a good buying decision to learn before you buy. Not only talking about just the patient care you're going to give, but
this has been that conversation is something that doesn't happen either, right? Like, we are taught, like, oh, you open a practice, you have to have this device, this device, this device, and you have these $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 monthly payments for these devices, and no one to use them on because you don't know how to market it correctly, and you don't even probably have the audience for it to begin with, right? So we never teach ourselves to, start slow. Build your patient base, listen to your patient base. What do they need? What are you having like a lack in where you're not able to treat? So if your patient base is, fits 1 and 2 and all of them have sunspots, well, girl, you need an IPL. But, here in the Midwest where everybody's like, a 3 to a 6, I don't have a reason for an IPL. But no one ever really teaches you got to have it before you start getting these devices. And you get this great rep who acts like they're your best friend. No shade to reps, but they're your bestie until you buy, and then they disappear, and then you're stuck with this bill. And it's a lot of practices have closed their doors because of this. It's a hamster wheel that we all need to just get off of and really take our time and figure out what's going to be the best for our practice, for sure.
Yeah, I don't hate the rep. I mean, it's your responsibility as a buyer to be informed. Like, if a rep can get it sold, like, go for it, buddy. Like, the fact that you can get it done, like, I don't hate your hustle at all. But the fact that the person who's in the chair that you sold to didn't do the research, that's a them problem, not a you problem, right? They got to get that figured out. But you're doing it very successfully, obviously. How do you make it profitable? Because I think there is a disconnect, if you will, about how it's profitable for the practice. And if I'm trading an injectable versus a laser, which is totally different indications that people think in their mind that they're trading one for the other, how do you make it a moneymaker for you and a comeback, a referral, people coming in to see it, coming in to get it done a couple times? Like, how does it all work for you money-wise?
So I think a big disconnect with energy-based devices in practices is that they look at it as kind of like their second leader. Like, oh, in addition to, we have this in case you want it type of thing, where in our practice, it's our first leader. We lead with laser, and then everything else is a support. So in my practice, it's very easy to convert that. I also charge what I'm worth. A lot of practices have a habit of taking their energy-based devices that they're paying $250,000 for, $300,000 for, and then dwindling the price down. If anything, that is what you should be charging the most for in your practice. And it's going to have the fastest result out of really anything when used properly, right? So in my practice, we charge what we're worth. We don't negotiate it. It's not a back and forth. This is what it costs. These are our clinical outcomes that we've achieved with this. And then everything else just kind of supports and aligns. We're coming into a world where, the fad of like, dissolving all our fillers. I could never, but dissolving all our fillers and all these things.
Me either.
It's not going to happen. Was just such a huge like trend. And so now you have all these people looking for more natural ways of, getting that collagen induction that they're looking for. So PDRN has been a huge, trend. Lasers have been a huge trend. Completely resurfacing your skin has been a huge trend. And so now we're getting away from that being our first leader. And so I noticed that, my colleagues who are calling me like, Roni, I'm slow right now. I'm like, oh, I know. you put that as your first, and then you made your energy-based devices seem like they were nothing, where that's really what people are demanding, and they want to see your results from that. So when we talk about, showing up on Instagram and it's not sexy, it's kind of like it should have been a little bit sexy first for us, right? Like we should have had our lasers being a little sexy in the background, which I'm trying to create, but it's really hard to make laser look sexy. I mean, I'm about to obliterate the skin. So it's hard to get it sexy, but I think that's what it is. We have to kind of, work for our clinical outcomes and make that a part of it as well. So when we're doing injections, we're also talking about skin, right? We did this great lift to the face with our Juvederm or whatever filler that we're using, but we didn't resurface the skin. So the skin kind of looks kind of flaky and, not up to par of what we're trying to match. So.
Well, and I think that's a giveaway for overdone work. I think people think it's overfilling. I disagree. I think a lot of it is that the skin is so terrible that because the cheeks are filled, it doesn't match. You're like, how does this person who looks like they're from Tales of the Crypt with their skin have these great supple cheeks? Like, I think it's the brain telling you that there's a disconnect there that makes you think it's overfilled. If they had really supple skin that looked youthful and was bright and pink and nice and rosy, you'd be like,
and hydrated.
Like, oh, that's their cheeks. Like you wouldn't think anything about it, but the fact that the skin is looks like it's really like Tales of the Crypt, you immediately know that it is full of filler. Like it's just a dead giveaway. So I think that as we look at this big biostimulator movement, which again, we've been doing this for a long time, but now it's just popular. If you're going to do something like Sculptra or Radiesse under the skin and you don't treat the skin, it's still going to be a dead giveaway that something does not add up here. It's like when your neck doesn't match your face, like something here is not jiving. I think that there's going to be this place where no matter what we do as an industry, if we don't start thinking about the skin like we think about the underlying tissues, we're going to be in the same place in 10 years from now. We've got to take a step back and think about the overall picture. And I think to your point that the lasers are where you start. If the skin's terrible, I don't care how much I give you with filler and lifting, you still have bad skin. I mean,
absolutely.
Anyone that has acne will tell you that the skin still matters most of all, right? They'll tell you that the acne is
skin
huge.
First.
Yeah, it's number one.
It's number one. And, in my practice, we even have a rule. It's our rule. Like, if we give you a clinical protocol and you refuse part of that clinical protocol, you sign off that you refuse part of that clinical protocol. And skincare is always a part of that clinical protocol. So whether you're getting fillers, I need to be able to support your skin at home. Whether you're getting laser, I need to be able to support your skin at home, which is where Precise MD comes in, right? Like you have to have these products in order to make sure that you're doing all the things the day to day. I wish I could follow all of my patients and be in their pockets and make sure that they're doing their skincare and make sure that they're following the rules. But unfortunately, I can't. So I have to have something in your hand at home so that I know that you're doing all of the aftercare that I need done. And if you refuse, or if you say, oh, I got this from, the OTC store, and I'm just going to use this because I've been using it for 25 years, but yet you're in my chair with crepey, dehydrated skin, then okay, that's fine. But sign off that you refuse to get what I told you to get to make sure that you have the best clinical outcome possible. And I think that's a big thing in practices as well. We don't take ownership of our protocols and our procedures and basically what we're prescribing for our patients, right? If I'm telling you like you need this, 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 and that, and you're refusing it, you don't go to the doctor and say, oh, I'm refusing my antibiotic because that's not the milligram that I want. You know what I mean? Like we have to come to a place now where we start really practicing medicine and we start being the authorities, whether it's aesthetic medicine, dermatology, plastic surgery, whatever it is, be the authority so that your patient understands, okay, I'm actually in a medical setting, regardless of how cool the music is, right? So I know my music's so cool. I had to put that in there, but yeah.
But, think about like the regular doctor, like the non-aesthetic doctor. When you go there, it's kind of all packaged together, right? Like let's say you go have a surgery of some sort. They don't tell you what all the things cost. It's like the surgery cost $10,000, period. We're going to bill your insurance $10,000. They're going to give you your at-home wound care kit. They're going to give you your bra. You got to all the things. I think we make a distinction here about what you're buying, which almost is a discredit to the practice. Like in your case, if I need to get all these things for the protocol, make it just the price. Like the price is this, and it includes your pre-care, your post-care, your follow-up, whatever it is that you need to have me do. I think because we approach it like a nickel and dime in a sense that people are like, I don't need that. Like, no, it's just part of the package. Like when you bought your laser, you got this with it. Then no one complains about it. And if the price is a little bit more, it's like, oh, well, I get all these awesome things with it. I can kind of see why it's a, a premium product. I think we are almost too much into the transparency of the pricing that it hurts us as a practice because we can't package things together that just should naturally be part of like, this is just the service. The service includes all the things. Get it, it's like a facelift, right? You don't pay for the bandages, you just get the facelift. I think we've
Exactly.
gotten too far away from that we're not just presenting with like the outcome, which I love outcome based pricing. It's like, this is the thing you're going to get. Whatever's included in that, it's already packaged up for you. Just take it and go.
Absolutely. And giving yourself, and I think in aesthetics, we price in a way that kind of puts us in a corner. Like, if you price in a way that's just kind of like, I cannot give this patient anything else extra, otherwise I'm in the hole, you're already setting yourself up for failure. In my practice, the reason the pricing doesn't change is because if I need to pivot, I need to be able to make that assessment as a medical provider, not as a business owner, right? So if I'm like, I tell this patient, I'm going to do 3 thulium treatments on you, then we're going to subsize, then I'm going to, under inject with diluted Bellafill or whatever I'm going to do. But then I'm in treatment 2 halfway through their protocol and I'm not seeing the result I need to see. I've already charged what I need to charge to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to do something different for you. And every time I do it, my patients are like, wait, is it extra? And I'm like, no, it's not extra. Nothing's extra because I've already charged you and you've already committed to what that clinical outcome was going to be. I just have to practice medicine in a way that allows me to pivot if it's not working for you. Because as we know, skin is our largest organ, but it's also our most complicated and diverse organ. Whereas one thing may work for one will not work for the other person. And so I have to give myself that space and that latitude to be able to pivot. And if I'm always nickeling and diming every single thing with this patient, I'm never going to get there. And so that takes away the trust, right? You build these clinical outcomes, you have these great before and afters because you've given yourself that latitude to give that to patients. And then that just keeps word of mouth going, that keeps your social media going, and that just drives traffic. I can say that we have been a successful practice without having to do a whole lot of over convoluted marketing just based upon like what results that we put out there, right? And so that just gets people talking about you. Oh, they do great results. They're not going to damage your skin. This is what you're going to receive. Nurse Roni B said, I can get laser hair removal even though I'm a fit 6. Like all those things are what keeps practices successful. And so once you price in a way where you're not trying to compete with the person next to you who decided to make a Groupon deal, you'll be just fine. Yeah.
Well, and on your Instagram, I watched a few of your videos. You're like, we're clinically based, and you make a pretty big deal about the fact that everything is very clinical. And I do think there's a part of that when it comes to the devices, because people, I think, do know that they are a little scarier. That the fact that it's so clinically focused, obviously that you have a dermatology background, that you are part of a laser company, that you're helping to bring technologies to market. You have a very unique credentialing that people often don't have. Obviously, they don't have all those cool things. But the fact that you're like, we're rooted in science, we're rooted in clinical outcomes, and if it's not the right thing, we'll move it, we'll change it. I think there is some part of that a person is willing to say yes and buy it because they know that if it's not the right thing, that you've got their back. I think there is a problem in a practice where if I buy a package, let's say of Juvederm, for instance, and it's not the right thing for me, it's like, well, sorry, you bought Juvederm. And I think the practice is sometimes like unrelenting, like, well, sorry, you bought this thing, I don't know what to do. They don't often think about the fact that you just got to switch. Like you bought the outcome, whatever the outcome is. And so I do think there's a part of that that's really unique, but also what you said at the end, if you're good at this, the referral stream, I think, is very healthy because people are just not doing it or doing it well. So if you are great at devices and lasers, then everyone knows someone who needs it, right? We all have a friend that needs it or has asked about it. Your referral opportunity there is huge because there's no competition. They're not fighting between you and someone else. It's like, my girl Roni does it and she's great at it. Go see her. Like there's never a thought in their mind that it's someone else. It's always going to be you. I think that we've not leaned into nearly enough that this is a differentiator in your practice that could be a huge advantage for you that people just aren't doing or not doing it well, at least. And so I'm sure that you're capitalizing on that in a huge way because you guys do it so much and you're so good at it. But I just feel like it's a untapped market, untapped potential for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I've been working really hard to figure out that tap, girl.
Haven't we all? Haven't we all?
Yes.
Well, to kind of make a transition, because I do think it's important to talk about the fact that you are a CMO of a company, that you have brought a device to market, that you are working in your own company. How do you make that transition? So someone's like, gosh, I love that you're even involved. Like, how do I even get involved with the company to even think about, looking at their trials or being an early tester? How did you make that jump from Nurse Roni to now CMO Roni?
Well, before Nurse Roni, I was actually MBA Roni. So Yeah, so my business background always kind of put that in the forefront of running a business, being able to make a business profitable. All of those things were always very important to me prior to me even going back to school for nursing. So when Cervello, I was an early adopter of their device and I learned things about it, knew a whole lot about it. And they decided that it was time for them to take on a CMO. I felt like they were just like, that's our first choice, because as we are developing the technology, even the Cervello device, we're working on new advancements and things to make that device even better. I think I was just kind of a natural fit with that company. I met with the owners, and they are absolutely incredible and really understand the responsibility behind owning a laser tech company, which I haven't seen in a really long time. I've worked with some big names, won't say their names, but I've worked with some really big name laser companies, and they just really didn't get it. I actually approached a company that I was working with their laser for laser tattoo removal regarding changing some of their protocols that were given to trainers for darker skin types, and they just dismissed it. And so then I became their competition because I just got Precise Pico is FDA cleared and we are working on distribution. And now people who purchase that device will be able to get that same training. And so, yeah, I just feel like, when you're working for companies and trying to pivot into a different side of it, I think, we all come with a set of skill sets that we can pivot at any point we want to. It's one of the coolest part about this industry is that we can literally write our own ticket and kind of figure out what our careers look like. I think we always get into this nomer of in this industry where it's like you go bedside, then you go nursing, then you own a med spa, and we stop there. It's kind of like that's what you're going to do, or you're just going to become a trainer and then you stop there, and there's so many aspects to this industry. There's the business side of it. There's the tech side of it. There's the business consulting side of it. There's just so much that goes into it as a whole. And so really kind of figuring out what's your passion and where you want to live there is how you kind of figure out what's your next move for yourself, for sure.
And I think it's probably fulfilling. I mean, even here, like I'm crazy busy, but it's kind of the same busy every day, right? It's the same kind of chaos nonstop. I love to do other projects and to get involved in other things because it breaks up the monotony for me. And I think even if you're busy in something, it can be very monotonous. And I think being in a clinic every day, doing the same thing with patients, same treatment, same consultation, same thing, while it may be very fun and you love it, it is probably monotonous. And I think there is a part of it, even as a trainer, it's kind of monotonous. And it's a lot of work to be a trainer. You know this. Training is it's a drain. So you're already tired from working in your clinic. Now you're going to go train people. You're like, oh my God, this can't get any worse. I think
it made me tired when you said
I know,
like training is like.
I got tired thinking about it too. I mean, aesthetic necks, hello, it's exhausting. But I think this is another way for you to be a part of the industry and contribute in a way that's really significant, but it's also different and fun and a contribution that's such a big scale. In a med spa, you can help yourself. You can help your patients. As a trainer, maybe a few med spas, but this is like you can help all kinds of people, patients and med spas all across the country to learn new technologies, to get better outcomes. Like, I just think I love scale. As many people know, I want to help everyone, not one person. Like, I never want to own a med spa because I'm like, it's not enough for me. I want to help all the people. And I think this is a cool place to do it. So if someone's like, I'm going to get out of aesthetics, I hate it, I'm done with my practice, I'm like, go do a different thing here. There's lots of things you can do here. You don't have to just be in a med spa. You can do all kinds of things here. But how did you even in your med spa world, you're thinking about your practice. Like, when did you decide I can do more now? Like, I'm at a place in the med spa where it's successful enough on its own that I can shift attention to anything else besides just literally living and breathing in this med spa all day long.
And I really feel like I fell into it on accident, right? So I had started my practice. Our practice has been open for 7 years. And so about year 4, where I felt like, I've kind of conquered this seeing patients day to day, growing my team. This is kind of cool, but I can't stay here. I started thinking about when I get older, right? Like, I'm aging a little bit. I'm getting up there. So what's next for me? Like, am I going to be a golden girl in my chair giving both? That's kind of how I felt. So I'm like, okay, what is it that is in this industry that I just super, super love that I would do for free? Someone asked me that question and it was like, I would do for free. What would I do for free? And I realized that my laser room is heaven. Like, where I function, if I could just shoot tattoos all day long, I do it for free. I literally walk around hearing in my head all day and literally love the response of skin and response of the tattoo that I get from the laser. It makes me salivate. So when you love something that much, you pour everything that you have into it, right? So I poured everything I had into it. I poured my heart, my soul, my mind, everything I had into it to make sure that I was not only good at it, but then that I was also creating these outcomes that made me different, right? These treating tattoos on darker skin types was a faux pas. Oh, we can't do it because your laser technically, if you think of the physics of it, doesn't recognize the difference between ink and melanin. They're the same to it. But there had to be a place where that could occur, and I not take the melanin, but I take the ink. So it's really a matter in physics of figuring out how to trick your laser. And then I figured it out by fucking up a lot of people. That's how you figure it out, right? And that's what happened. So when I say we need to practice medicine, this is what I'm talking about. You need to practice it in order to become good at it. That's what practicing medicine means. We're practicing medicine until we come up with a solution for the patient to get the clinical outcome that we're looking for. And so when I realized that, yes, I can come up with these great clinical outcomes in my practice, but then how does everybody else, how are they going to be able to do this? And then how am I going to be the person to say, oh, I only know this setting. So how can I, teach anybody else? And then those patients in other states are suffering. That's when it came to mind that I really have to focus on part of business, right? Like I have to figure out how can I generate tech? How can I distribute? And so joining Cervello was really a big part of that. They kind of had me thinking in a way that made me say, okay, they are people who started in this aesthetic industry, grew it to be something so amazing, and literally will support everything that I have going on. They're amazing friends as well as business partners. I need to figure out how to get further than this. And that's really what kind of pivoted me to say, okay, I can see 20, 30 patients a day. I still do, right? But then one of my days off, on my admin days, I have to figure out another way to be able to expand that wealth of knowledge. And that's really what it's all about, just expanding the wealth of knowledge so that other people have the opportunities that I have.
Everything you said there, I love, first of all. And I think it's such a unique idea. Well, it's not unique, but people forget about it. If you're a trainer for like an injectable company and you can, like what we say, run the play, right? You know how to talk about the product, you can do the injections, you're great on podium, you memorize the slide deck. Yay. Like, that's good for you. You'll probably get booked a lot, make a lot of money doing it, but you'll always be that. You'll be a peer-to-peer trainer forever. You might do some podiums here and there. What a manufacturer needs is a disruptive thinker. They want you in the room with them when they're thinking about the FDA trial and putting together the study and how do you go to market with this? How do you message it? What could be a potential adverse event? How do we solve the problems? To be at that table is not the same thing as being at the table as a trainer, because to run the play is like you just learned how to do all the things. You learned A to B and you can repeat it over and over and over again. So I think there is a disconnect for our industry today. Like, I want to be a trainer. Great. You'll learn the play, you'll run it, you'll be good to go. But if you want to be the disruptor and the innovator, that may not be the place for you. You may skip that entirely and go to the room where the decisions are made and be at that conversation at that table. And I think it's just such a different kind of person. If you can do both, it's really beautiful. But most people can't do both. They're either one or the other. But I think you do both really well. But I think because you are an innovator, you're more of a scientist, you're pushing the envelope, you're trying to figure out, can I break it and rebuild it and fix it? That mentality plays for a long time. The other is a short-term thing. It's a short-term game, but the idea that I can figure out how to make this thing better for everyone, that's a long-term play that when you're 65, 70, 80, you can still be doing that. That's still a career. When injectables are long gone, you can still have that career because it's like a skill set or a mindset. But I just think you're doing it differently because you're thinking about that part, not just being the mouthpiece for a manufacturer, which I think is really important in 2025.
And being a disruptor, I think requires you to be in the field, and that's behind your chair, right? You have to listen to your patients. You have to see what's happening. You have to listen to their demands and what they're not able to achieve or what you're not able to achieve. So you're looking at your strengths and weaknesses as well, and understanding that other injectors or other clinical practitioners are in that same boat as you. And I feel like I always had to have a little bit of both in order to be the person who's leading the industry. You can't just not be around patients. That's your strength. That's how you sit at a table with key opinion leaders, and you sit at a table with people who are actually making the decisions in this industry to move it forward, because you have something that they don't. You have the patience. You listen to them. You know exactly what they're missing. You know exactly what needs to happen. to be able to make those big moves in this industry. And if you dismiss that, that's fine. There's other people around there who will. But if you are desiring to take your aesthetic industry experience and come into the world of business, you have to understand that component.
And if you don't want to do that yet, you don't have the courage. I think it takes a lot of courage, right, to speak out and do things differently. If you're like a person who's saying, you know what, once it's already proven and good to go, I'll do it. Then find someone like Roni who is courageous and who will go do it, and watch what they're doing and mimic that in your practice. Get the training, learn the skills. But it doesn't mean that we all have to go do that. I think if we were all disrupting, it'd be chaos. But you need to find, you need to look across the spectrum and say, who in this world is doing what I love? Let's say it's tattoo removal, and doing things novel, innovative, unique. I'll follow them because I don't have the courage or the time, maybe it's a time issue, to go try crazy things because I don't have the knowledge to do it or even the skill set where you do. So go follow you. I think we do get confused to hear about who to follow. And I love social media. I think it's awesome for many things, but I think there's a part of it where it's not always the truth teller of who is the best at the things. So do some research. So do some research on especially devices, because again, it's not so sexy, and people who are doing it a lot probably aren't on social media in a big flashy way. So find your people who have the courage and have the skill set and the desire, and go follow them and do what they're doing, because you've already done it, right? You've already made all the mistakes, and like you said, you've already messed it up and fixed it and tried it again. Mm-hmm. I don't need to do that. You've already done it for me. And so I think there's a part of it where, especially in devices, because it's such a the adverse events are such bigger. I think there's a bigger issue here when you have a laser problem. Go find people who've already done it and walk the walk, and then you don't have to make the mistakes. It's just such a brilliant way to just avoid the chaos. Exactly. If you can just learn from other people. But I think, to your point, we just don't discuss lasers enough, so it's hard to find people like you because we're just not leaning into it nearly enough and celebrating it like we should on podium. So that brings me to Aesthetic Next. You're coming to Aesthetic Next. You're going to talk about all the things. What are your sessions going to be about? Tell us all about it.
I'm super, super excited about joining Aesthetic Next because, first of all, this is kind of like my coming out the what's that called? I'm coming out.
She's coming out of the closet for lasers.
Yeah, so I will be doing a live demo with the Cervello device, but also talking about dermatological follicular diseases. And then I have another session where I'm actually talking about the synergy between aesthetics, dermatology, and lasers. So it is going to be a fun time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the demo. I love a good live demo. I think they can go wrong. I mean, you want to hear hell in a handbasket? A live demo going wrong is hell in a freaking handbasket. But when it goes right, it's music. It's beautiful. And I think to see a device in real life and in person, and to watch the patient grimace or not grimace or hurt or not hurt, there's a part of that that's invaluable for a person thinking about buying a device, like see it, and also to ask you, how does it feel in your hand? What things are you seeing? I just think it's invaluable when you're at a trade show and they're doing a live demo. Go to that live demo and watch it. If you have any idea about the device, if you want to think about buying it at some point in the future, go to the live demo because you can learn. I mean, it's like visual. You can learn everything right there. It's not just didactic. Yes. So I think you guys have a booth. Like you're going to be there doing all the things. So make sure you go check it out because I do think that I might go find my way into your chair for the live demo. Like, hello.
Come on over, girl. I got you.
Can you find? Because my pain tolerance is very low when it comes to laser hair removal. And yeah, I think I'm gonna
be a perfect person.
I'm tough on many things. With that one, I'm not tough. That bikini era, Roni, it lights me up. I'm like, you know what? Nope, let's not do it again. It's not pleasant, but.
I understand. I'm the same way. I'm not really good with it either, but definitely I just grimace through it because the other option is for me to be waxed. And when they do that, I feel like they're trying to pull out my uterus. Yeah, so I'm good.
I hear you. And I think one part of really all of your talks that I've heard, at least on Instagram, just looking at some of the research online from you, is the whole skin of color idea is everywhere. Like you really talk about that because it's just part of being skin. I mean, it's not, we have all these like special lectures for it, which I do think in some cases you have to have that because you don't maybe know. Like I wouldn't know about it, right? I'm like as pale as a ghost. But I do think for you, it's like if you have a device, this is the United Colors of Benetton. Like it's part of the skin spectrum. Learn how to treat it. It's not any different than being like ghostly white or having dark skin. It's like you got to learn both ends of the spectrum. And so I do think when you talk about all of it, which I think is really cool. I don't have to go to some certain lecture in a certain hall to hear about 3 through 6. I just think that's a really cool thing that you offer that you don't normally see. Yeah. It's integrated for you with all your discussions.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have the most diverse clientele, patient base. And I sometimes look through my charts and I'm just like, wow, it's such an amazing thing. But when you learn how to treat skin, learn how to treat all skin. And that's just the way that I roll, 1 through 6. We need to know how to treat everything and anything that sits in front of us. If not, you're just doing a disservice to the industry as a whole.
And if you don't know, don't do it. If you don't know, refer it out to somebody else. I can't say that enough. I think with devices, if anything, if any modality, if you don't know, don't do it. Find someone who does and be okay with letting them walk out, because if not, and you hurt that person, you've done so much more harm than just the money that you lost. Who cares? Like, bless and release. And then go learn, and then take that as a note from God. Go learn.
Go learn.
That's your divine intervention to go learn how to do that for the next patient that comes in the door.
You want to make the money, learn how to do it properly.
Yeah, spend the time.
That's just the bottom line, right?
Well, tell us how to find you. You've got a ton of websites, and I'll put the whole list inside of our notes. But Instagram wise, give us like the easiest ways to find you, especially if you want to do some training with you.
Easiest at Nurse Roni B, NurseRonib. My business, my med spa is at PSRX Body and Skin, at Cervello_USA. Yeah, that's how you kind of reach out to me. We have a Precise Medical Aesthetics one, but we're doing a big launch for Precise Pico. So I'm kind of waiting to put that out there. And then, then we're going to have some tech and some trainings. It's going to be amazing.
Well, and kudos to you. The FDA process is terrible. I've done it several times. It's terrible. It is like, I mean, you might as well give them a kidney, and it's just horrible. So the fact you've done it all.
The process that we've had to go through with Pico has been insane, and it's been a 3-year journey to get that approval. Now that we kind of understand it a little bit more, and then we're also FDA cleared as a manufacturer, then now we're working with thulium lasers. We're working on a new CO2, and all these are scheduled to kind of be done and through the FDA process by the end of the year. So we have a lot of really cool things coming.
So you got a big year in store for you. So definitely go see Roni at Aesthetic Next for her lectures, and go by the Cervello booth and check it out. And I do think once this all launches for you, you're gonna be in your practice, maybe less. But I think you'll always stay connected to the chair. I mean, to your point, the patients who are in the practice, who are in the chair and serving them. But I do think you're going to have an explosive growth, because someone who's so passionate about it in this market today, right now, doing this is a bit of a different story than it was, even last year or 2 years ago, because it's become such a hot item for patients. But I love what you're doing. You are you're beautiful. You've got all your shit together. You're doing all these really cool things with this company. So I just think you're like one to watch for me. So I just think.
Oh, thank you so much.
I love watching your journey, and congratulations on all of your success and all your degrees too, but all of your success and what you're doing in the market, and for all of your nonprofit work and doing charitable things. I think that's just such an awesome thing to give back. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
Any last words for our audience before we jump off?
Nothing. I just, get onto that laser studying, guys. Let's make sure that we have that as part of our practice and really understand those physics and that responsibility. And that's about it.
Those are words to live by right there for sure. But for the rest of you, I'll see you guys all next week for another For the Record episode. Bye, Roni. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of For the Record. This podcast is not intended to provide legal or medical advice. It's for entertainment, education, and information purposes only. For more information on this week's guest, or to get started with Aesthetic Record, email us at info@aestheticrecord.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more fresh perspectives on disrupting the status quo and surviving in the aesthetics industry.